Hey, what up, boxing fans? This is the Rope-A-Dope Report. I am your host, Chris Carlson. Got another upload for you. This one will be somewhat short and sweet. Um, this one's David Haye versus Tony Bellew. Big UK Sky Sports pay-per-view coming up this weekend. Big weekend of fights. I'm about to do the Thurman Garcia um, prediction next. For this fight, hopefully I'm wrong, but more than likely, a lot of the entertainment will be outside the ring and not necessarily inside the ring. That's not to say this fight won't be entertaining. Um, I'm really hoping that it's a two-way fight for as long as it lasts. I really do. But I have to say, I have been enjoying myself paying attention to the lead up. Obviously, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Sports, and Richard Schaefer, technically, too, right? Um, it's been fun. It's been fun to watch the interviews and the press conferences, and, it's been a blast. Obviously, Tony Bellew has really had a spark late in his career. He's a guy that fought at light heavyweight. Um, he fought a guy that a lot of people know, Stevenson. Had his moments in that fight, ended up getting stopped. Has had a nice string of fights at cruiserweight of late. What was it, 2 fights ago? Not against Flores. Although he did kind of get caught in the Flores fight, but the fight before it, the stadium fight, the outdoor fight, he looked pretty damn good in that. Of course, early he didn't, and Bellew has a way of getting hurt or caught with something. I'm not saying necessarily always knocked down early, but he has a way of getting caught early, maybe when he's cold or just kind of warming up or whatever. But there is something that kind of sparks in him. And in that fight, it gave him a spark. It was kind of like a wake-up call. And he fought really well after that. Now, he's got to be pretty damn careful, I'd say, in this fight. Obviously, Bellew now going up in weight. I think cruiserweight fits him really well. And, I understand, excuse me, I understand why he'd take this fight. It's a big money fight. I think pretty sure that this is the biggest fight at the O2 Arena, which tells you something there, right? Gate-wise, anyway, I believe. I don't know. So I get it. I get why this fight's happening. Some people think it's a complete mismatch on pay-per-view. Some people are okay with it. A lot of people do not like David Haye for his antics as far as always injured and pulling out of fights. And he had a heavyweight belt. He didn't do a lot with it. The no-show against Klitschko. Now, supposedly it was that broken foot. He was afraid to pull out again of another fight like he did, was it twice against Fury? So, I want to say, though, Tony Bellew, I hope that he can go back to cruiserweight. Now, if he beats David Haye, there's going to be probably more heavyweight fights, right? But if he loses to him, I hope he can still have a couple of fights or a decent end to his career at cruiserweight, because I think there's some potential there. And obviously not a lot of big names. Usyk is definitely on the rise, but not a lot of big names, but a lot of competitive fights for him there. As far as David Haye, most of his damage was done at cruiserweight as well. So he's not a true heavyweight. It just, to me, he's already proven, David Haye has, that he can carry that weight and look good at times anyway. I know he didn't look good against Klitschko, but so I think the weight is not a huge deal, but I think you have to take it in there. You have to apply it to the ultimate formula when it comes to this. And like I said, if Bellew starts too cold, he could be in problems here. Although I don't expect David Haye to come right out and go for the knockout either. He's more of a guy that sits back, wants a guy to come to him, he can use a jab, be on the outside, and then lay big shots. You know what I mean? Kind of take your time. He's not the most exciting fighter, like I said. I mean, you've seen him against the Jolly Green Giant, right? The big monster, and he was kind of busy in that fight at times, but not really. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if the first couple rounds actually turn out to be a little bit dull as they're kind of just figuring each other out. Bellew it'd probably be smart for Bellew to take things slow early because of the new weight class. But like I said, David Haye, he held the weight better at heavyweight, right? He's been there longer, but his last two fights were complete rollover opponents, right? And he hasn't been in a legit fight for a long, long time. So there's got to be something there that plays into that. And although he's had those two camps to get ready for the fights, that helps, no doubt about it. But there's nothing that replaces that no headgear with 10-ounce heavyweight gloves on, not the big gloves and the headgear. It is a little different. So there could be some shell shock for David Haye and all those injuries that he's had. Some people think he pulled out, for not legitimate reasons. All those injuries he's had, though, could catch up to him. I think David Haye wins this fight, and I think he wins it by like TKO or KO somewhere a little later in the fight. Whether that be 7th, whether that be the 9th, whether that be later, I don't know. I could see Haye having problems with his timing for a while, and then his natural athleticism and skill kind of takes over. But that's what kind of makes this fight, for me anyway, legitimate, because the fact that David Haye has not really done much in the ring. And boxing's not a sport you can just play around with. I understand why Haye and many other people think this is a mismatch. And head up, it does feel like a mismatch. But the time out of the ring, I mean, even beyond the Klitschko fight, which it was a no-show, and I do believe he hurt his toe and whatnot, but what's his last great performance? So that does add up. Floyd Mayweather can go away for 18 months or almost 2 years, and I think that was the case, 21 months against Marquez. It looked pretty good, but it's a lower weight. It's just different. David Haye's never been a Floyd Mayweather type, right? So I do think we'll have a slow start. I think the action will open up, but Bellew's not just going to get steamrolled. He's a guy that has pride. He's going to go for it. He has power as well. I think it'll be a fun fight once we get through the first couple of rounds of the feel-out process. Then I think we'll start to get some action, some two-way action, some big bombs. I think David Haye will be calm on the outside. But like I said, man, you never know how your body responds when you've been out of a fight that long. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I'm taking David Haye by TKO or KO later in this fight, somewhere around maybe 8 or 9, something like that. Anyway, enjoy the fights. Check out the Rope It Up Radio podcast anytime on blogtalkradio.com/Rope It Up Radio, or on iTunes or Player FM, Stitcher, yada, yada, yada. Peace.